Welcome and thank you for joining me for this quiet journey into the past. In this story, we will take a long, gentle walk through medieval Europe. There will be no rush. We will move slowly, pausing often, noticing details, and lingering on the small things that made up ordinary life. Perhaps as you listen, you will feel your eyes grow heavy. Perhaps the slow rhythm of the words will carry you into sleep. That is perfectly fine. The past will still be here when you wake. Before the first hint of color touches the eastern sky, the village is already stirring. Somewhere in the dark a cock crows once, then again, and dogs answer with a sleepy bark. The smell of damp earth and wood smoke clings to the narrow lanes. Thatched roofs loom as quiet shapes against the stars. In a small timber cottage, a farmer slides from his straw bed, careful not to wake the youngest child curled beside the hearth. He pulls on rough wool and steps into the chill. The door creaks, dew sparkles on the grass, and the first breath of morning carries smoke from distant baking ovens. Villages in the Middle Ages wake early because daylight is precious. By dawn, the well yard fills with muffled voices as women and older children fetch water. Buckets squeak on their ropes, cold drops splash bare toes, chickens flutter and cluck when coops are opened, geese hiss and flap their wings. A sleepy cow lows from the byre, waiting to be milked. From cottage chimneys, thin trails of smoke begin to rise, each fire coaxed back from last night's embers. The faint cracker and sudden glow of flame signal the day's start. Inside one house, a mother kneels by hearth, stirring coals to life. She sets an iron pot of barley gruel to warm, sprinkles salt, maybe a knob of butter if they have it. A child rubs eyes and feeds kindling under pot. Bread from yesterday waits on a shelf, hard but filling. The family eats quickly. The men and older boys must be in fields as soon as light is strong enough to see the furrows. The fields to find the village rhythm. By dawn's full break, farmers shoulder hoes, lead oxes from sheds, and walk to their strips in the open field system. Long, narrow plots side by side, each family's marked by stones or simple posts. The air smells of fresh soil and spring grass. In winter it smells of cold mud and manure, in summer of dust and warm hay. Birds wheel overhead and the steady creak of wooden plows begins to echo. Not everyone works the soil. Along one lane a blacksmith rekindles his forge, bellows sighing as coals glow orange. The ring of hammer on anvil will soon spread through the morning, a sound as familiar as birdsong. A carpenter sharpens plane blades outside his shop, sweeping yesterday's curls of oak and ash into neat piles. Women spin wool on doorsteps, fingers quick despite chill. A potter checks drying vessels stacked under shed roof. Each trade awakens quietly but steadily. Children have their tasks. The smallest mine geese or gather sticks for fire, Older ones lead pigs to forest edge for rooting, bells jingling softly at their necks. Some scatter grain for chickens, others sweep thresholds. Laughter and shouts mix with bleats and clucks. Even play is threaded with chores. On market days, children may run messages or help carry goods to square. Morning is also time for gossip and small news. At the well, women talk of weather vital to planting, and of births, betrothals, or small disputes. Who is ill, who is traveling, whose cow broke fence, all pass from lip to lip with easy familiarity. A passing peddler adds spice of distant rumor, war far away, prices rising, a new saint's miracle. Such talk knits the community, sharing worry and hope alike. Religion folds naturally into morning. Church bells may sound for prime, the first office of day. Those who can slip away, often women, old men, or children, cross the dew-damp green to pray. A priest or monk might bless fields in planting season, sprinkling holy water while farmers bow their heads. Charms against blight or hail may hang on cottage doors, prayers whispered before the plough bites soil. Tradesmen sometimes travel with the dawn. A tinker trundles cart rattling with pots. A shepherd drives flock toward duckland grazing. Woodcutters disappear into forest with axes on shoulders. Messengers and merchants on horseback clatter through, stopping perhaps for a mug of small ale before pushing on. Roads are lively at first light. Daylight is safety. By mid-morning the village hums. Smoke thickens from hearths as bread bakes. Cheese softens near fire, and herbs dry in doorways. Bees stir in skeps. Dogs laze where sun strikes. Children's shrieks echo from pasture. Someone mend a net or roof. The rhythm is it frantic but full. Each person knows task and season. Centuries have worn the pattern smooth. The sounds define the mood. Bells for work or mass, the forge's steady clang, roosters lowing, cattle creak of cart wheels, a distant dog, smells too damp hay, warm bread, wood smoke, animal dung, new earth. For a traveler passing through, that sensory weave says life more than banners or battles. Season changes bring subtle shifts. In spring, fields burst green, lambs bleat, planting fills every hour. In summer, long light stretches day. Hay cutting and grain tending dominate, sweat and laughter mingling. In autumn, harvest drives all, scythe flashing, wagons piled high, prayers said for safe storage. In winter, mornings are slower, smoke thick, chores indoors, spinning, mending, curing meat, telling stories by fire. Yet even then animals need care and wood must be cut. No day is idle. Occasionally the routine breaks. A traveling noble might pass, causing rush to line road and watch, or a herald arrive with news of taxes or war. A fair day changes everything. Merchants, jugglers, and pilgrims fill lanes, music plays, and children dart wide-eyed among stalls. But on ordinary mornings, life holds to its simple, enduring pattern. After hours of work, villagers pause for small mid-morning meal, bread, cheese, ale. Men wipe brows and rest on plough handles. Women break from spinning to nurse baby or chat. Children nibble and tumble in grass. Then all return to tasks, for daylight is short in northern climes and every hour matters. The village morning ends with sun high and sweat on brows, but also with quiet satisfaction. Fields turned, animals fed, wares begun, hearths alive. It is unglamorous, rarely sung in chronicles, yet it feeds the world and gives shape to countless lives. So when you picture medieval life, imagine this dawn mist, cocks crowing, buckets clanking at wells, slow waking of trades, and wide fields stirring under pale sky. It is a tapestry of small, enduring labors, the humble heartbeat of a village morning. By the time the first sunlight warms the thatched roofs, the quiet lanes of the village are no longer still. From every direction come the sounds of wheels on rutted earth and the shuffle of hooves. Peasants trudge beside small carts stacked with onions, apples, woven baskets, and earthenware jugs. Shepherd boys urge reluctant sheep along. Women balance baskets on their hips, the weight heavy but familiar. It is market day, and the whole countryside seems to be walking toward the heart of the settlement, the wide, open market square. The square itself is little more than a packed earth space, bordered by timbered houses and a few shops, yet on this day it feels like the center of the world. Flags or simple cloth banners may hang from windows. Sometimes the Lord Steward has raised a painted pole to mark the market's authority and protection. Early arrivals set up rough stalls, boards on barrels, blankets spread on ground, carts tipped to show wares. Smells mingle, new bread, hay, drying fish, leather, damp wool. Merchants from nearby towns or even far cities arrive on horseback or in wagons. A cloth seller unrolls bolts dyed deep blue or russet. A potter stacks glazed jugs so their colors gleam in morning light. A traveling spice dealer arranges tiny packets of pepper, cinnamon, and saffron for those who can afford their luxury. A few foreign traders appear now and then, their accents strange, their wares exotic. Fine silk ribbons, bright beads, salt from distant coasts. Children stare wide-eyed at such wonders. The market bell rings, sometimes a church bell, sometimes one hung only for this purpose. Its deep note carries across fields, telling stragglers to hurry if they wish to sell early and well. By mid-morning the square is alive. Voices rise and fall, greetings, arguments over price, jokes and gossip. Dogs dart underfoot, scavenging dropped scraps. Geese honk indignantly as they are tied by the leg to stalls. Horses stamp, annoyed at noise and crowd. Food fills the air. Bakers arrive with fresh loaves still warm, crust crackling. A brewer sells jugs of small ale. A vintner offers thin local wine. Cheese sellers cut samples with wire, offering sharp or creamy tastes to tempt buyers. Butchers hang rabbits, chickens, or a quartered pig from wooden frame. Their knives flash as they cut to order. The smell is rich and not always pleasant, yet part of the day's texture. Many villagers come less to buy than to trade. Eggs for salt, flax for cheese, wool for iron nails. Barter thrives where coin is scarce. Deals are struck with handclasp and word alone. Trust runs deep in small communities. Yet merchants from away insist on silver pennies or larger coins, clinking, carefully weighed and tested by biting or ringing on table. Some buyers carry tiny scales to check the worth of gold leaf or spices. The market is also social theater. Friends meet after weeks apart. Cousins gossip while fingering cloth. Young men and women steal glances across baskets of apples. News travels faster here than anywhere. A minstrel sings of last year's war or a saint's miracle. A herald posts edict from lord about taxes or musters. Rumors of famine, plague, or strange beasts cross lips in excited whispers. For many, market day is their only window to a wider world. Children revel in sights and sounds. They chase chickens, beg for honey cakes, or stare at puppet shows set up in corners. A traveling juggler tosses bright balls. A dancing bear plods with chain rattling, and a fiddler plays reels that set feet tapping. The square smells of roasting nuts, sweetmeats, and warm hay. Laughter mixes with braying donkeys and clamor of bells. Authorities watch over all. The Lord's steward or bailiff patrols with guards to keep order, collects stall fees, and settle disputes. Scales are checked to prevent cheating, weights inspected. Sometimes a thief is caught and punished on the spot, perhaps tied to pillory by market cross as lesson to all. Yet most days pass with only stern words and small fines. Order matters. Trade depends on safety. Some markets host special fairs, larger gatherings sanctioned by royal or papal charter. Then the square swells beyond imagining. Tents, banners, distant merchants with camels or exotic animals, whole streets lined with wares. Days turn to week-long celebration with music, tournaments, and pageants. For humble villagers, these fairs are wonder and chaos, a glimpse of far-off lands and rich goods they may never afford but love to see. Market day shifts with the seasons. In spring, stalls overflow with early greens, lambs, young pigs, and wool from first shearing. Summer brings grain in sacks, fresh fruit, honey, and bright linen. Autumn is richest, apples, nuts, smoked hams, full fleeces, barrels of cider. Winter markets are quieter but smell of evergreen and roasting chestnuts. Merchants hawk candles, woolen mitts, and salted fish to last the cold months. Guilds use market to assert power. The bakers might march early to set price of bread. Weavers display their best. Butchers guard right to slaughter within town. Apprentices run errands and learn crafts' proud presence. Guild banners flutter if a feast day coincides, and masters boast quietly of work's quality. Spiritual life is close by. A church often stands just off the square. Bells call to midday mass or angelus. Pilgrims may sell badges or offer prayers for coins. Friars preach from corners, reminding shoppers of charity and salvation amid trade. Some buyers drop coins in poor box after bargaining hard, a small salve for conscience. By late afternoon, the buses slows. Bread is sold, meat gone, spices packed away. Merchants tally coins, farmers load unsold goods back onto carts. Dogs scavenge bones, children grow sleepy, and gossip winds down. A few travelers linger to drink ale and sing before heading out. Slowly the square empties until only scraps of straw and trampled mud remain, smelling of animals and spilled ale. Even in quiet, the market square feels changed. It has pulsed with life, drawn distant worlds into one place, and stitched the village more tightly to trade routes and news. Tomorrow it will return to open space for carts or children's games, but memory of voices and colors lingers. So when you picture medieval daily life, see this bustling heart, stalls bright with cloth and apples, traders calling, minstrels singing, gossip flowing like ale. The market square, is it just commerce? It is meeting place, news hall, stage of joy and survival. At the end of a long, twisting lane, where rainwater gathers in shallow puddles and the scent of wood smoke hangs low, stands a tavern with a crooked signboard. The painted mug upon it is faded, but the glow spilling from its windows is warm and inviting. Its walls are half timber and half stone, darkened by years of smoke, yet the door swings easily on its worn hinges. Travelers know it by reputation, a place where the fire burns late, the ale is steady, and the gossip of the town flows as freely as the drink. Inside, the air greets all who enter with a rush of warmth and the mingled smells of roasting meat, spice cider, and the faint tang of old oak casks. The hearth takes pride of place, wide enough for 3 grown men to stand within. Logs hiss as they burn, flames licking high to chase away the chill. Above the mantel, herbs hang, drying sage, rosemary, thyme, adding a pleasant sharpness to the smoky air. A blackened kettle simmers on the hearthstone, steam curling lazily toward the rafters. Rough-hewn tables fill the main room, their surfaces scarred by countless tankards and dice games. Lanterns hang from beams above, their light soft and golden. Against one wall stretches a long counter where the innkeeper works. A barrel-chested man with quick eyes and a talent for remembering every face and favorite drink. He moves with easy rhythm, filling mugs from a cask, slicing bread, counting coins without missing a word of conversation. Tonight the tavern is busy but not rowdy. Farmers sit with boots stretched toward the fire, talking of weather and harvest while nursing dark ale. A pair of merchants play cards quietly in a corner, their expressions mild but their eyes sharp. Near the hearth, an old soldier leans on his staff, telling a tale of the road to anyone who will listen, his voice low and steady as a drum. A dog sleeps at his feet, twitching now and then as it dreams. In the farthest nook sits a weaver, his hands never still even at rest. He knots a cord absent-mindedly, listening to the talk around him. Beside him, two washerwomen share a platter of cheese and dried fruit, laughing softly at a shared memory. A young apprentice from the Guildhall hovers near the counter, eager for stories yet shy of speaking. The innkeeper tosses him a kindly word now and then, coaxing him to stay. The fire crackles, and its light paints the low ceiling in wavering gold. Shadows move gently over the stone floor as patrons shift in their seats. The warmth seeps into boots and cloaks, drawing sighs of contentment from those who have spent the day in the damp streets. It is the sort of place where hours pass unnoticed, each moment softened by the comfort of company and a steady flame. A young maid tends the room, balancing a tray with practiced grace. She carries mugs of cider and bowls of stew, smiling easily as she weaves between benches. Now and then she pauses to hear a jest or accept a coin slipped with thanks. Her apron is clean but patched, her hair bound in a simple kerchief. Though she moves quickly, she never seems hurried, her calm presence a quiet balm. Near the hearth, the old soldier begins a new story, the one of his first winter on the road. His listeners lean closer as he speaks of snowdrifts high as a man, of wolves whose eyes glimmered in the dark, and of a lone chapel where he found shelter and bread. He does not embellish. His words are plain but carry weight. Even the merchants pause their game to listen for a while before turning back to their cards. From the kitchen comes the smell of meat turning slowly on a spit. The cook, a broad woman with a quick laugh, works unseen, but makes her presence known by the clatter of pots and the occasional song. She sings of the river and its fish, of fields in summer, of lovers waiting by the gate. Her voice is warm and untrained, but it fills the room with easy joy. The door opens with a gust of cool air, and a small group of travelers enters, stamping mud from their boots. They are road-worn, cloaks damp, cheeks flushed with cold. The innkeeper greets them with nods and a ready mug of ale each, asking softly about their journey. Soon they are settled near the fire, hands stretched to the warmth, grateful sighs escaping as heat returns to chilled fingers. One traveler, a young woman with bright eyes and a lute strapped across her back, soon proves to be a singer. At the urging of the crowd, she tunes her strings and begins a gentle song. Her voice is clear but soothing, a melody of wandering roads and quiet nights under the stars. Conversation softens around her, though no one falls fully silent. The music simply becomes another thread in the tavern's comforting tapestry. Children are rare guests here at night, but a few linger this evening, perched sleepily beside their parents. One boy curls on a bench wrapped in a cloak, eyes half shut, lulled by the hum of voices and the flicker of firelight. Another leans against his mother's side, too tired to eat the last of his bread but unwilling to leave the warmth. The innkeeper notices and brings a mug of warm milk, earning a grateful nod from the weary mother. The merchants finish their game at last, one laughing softly as he slides a small pile of coins across the table to the other. They part without rancor, both satisfied to have passed the evening in friendly contest. The weaver sets aside his cord and accepts a drink from the soldier, thanking him for the tale. The washerwomen rise to leave, pulling their shawls tight before stepping out into the night, their laughter fading as the door swings shut behind them. Late in the night, the inn grows quieter. Only the fire keeps its lively crackle, and its light pools golden over the worn floor. The travelers doze where they sit, too weary to climb the stairs to their rented rooms just yet. The innkeeper wipes the counter with a damp cloth, humming softly. The maid stacks empty bowls and cups with care, her movements unhurried. At last the singer with the lute packs away her instrument, smiling as she counts the few coins tossed her way. She thanks the innkeeper and promises to return if the road brings her this way again. The old soldier, leaning heavier on his staff now, bids good night to those who remain, and shuffles off toward the small room he lets above the kitchen. The innkeeper steps to the hearth, prodding the logs so that the fire will hold a little longer through the night. He pauses for a moment, gazing into the flames as if gathering his own quiet thoughts. Outside, the lane is dark and still, the town gone to sleep. Inside, warmth and calm linger like a deep breath held in comfort. When at last the last guest has climbed the stairs and the chairs are set upon the tables, the innkeeper banks the fire and snuffs the lanterns one by one. The great room falls into shadow, but the scent of wood smoke and roasted meat remains, mingled with the ghost of laughter and song. Tomorrow will bring new travelers, new tales, but tonight the tavern rests, wrapped in its own quiet story. Before sunrise, when roosters still doze and only a thin silver mist hangs across the fields, one sound sometimes stirs first, the hollow sigh of a leather bellows. It comes from a low stone workshop near the crossroads, where a faint orange glow leaks between shutters. This is the village forge, a place of warmth and metal, of sweat and steady rhythm. To live in a medieval village is to know this place well. You may be a farmer, a miller, a brewer, a shepherd. All roads lead here when something breaks or must be made. The blacksmith is not merely a tradesman. He is part mechanic, part engineer, part quiet guardian of the community's strength. Fire before dawn. The smith wakes before most folk. His cottage, usually attached to the forge itself, smells of smoke and warm bread left by wife or daughter. Outside, stars fade as he crosses to his hearth. Last night's coals may still hold a whisper of heat. If so, he stirs them with practiced care. If that, he strikes flint to steel, catching spark on dry moss. Soon the fire takes, feeding on charcoal he has stored all year. Charcoal is precious. In spring and autumn, woodcutters burn oak and beech in slow, smothered piles to create it, a smoky labor the smith often oversees. Without charcoal, his fire would burn too cool for iron. He tends the bellows, great leather lungs hinged to a beam, pumping air until the heart of his forge glows white. Sparks leap upward like small fireflies, and shadows jitter across the timbered walls. The forge smells different from any other place. Sweet, dry charcoal, acrid iron scale, damp leather, a faint tang of oil. To step inside at dawn is to enter another world, half workshop, half cavern of flame. Tools of the trade. Every tool has its spot. The anvil, massive, iron face, squats at the center like an altar. Hammers hang nearby, cross peen for drawing metal, ball peen for rounding, straight peen for edging. Tongs of every length line the wall, each shaped to grip some particular stock. Hardy tools fit the anvil's square hole, swages, fullers, cutters. Beside the fire stand buckets, one of water for quench it, one of oil for slow cooling, and sometimes a tub of sand to catch sparks or temper blades. The smith knows his tools like friends. Each bears scars of long use. Each fits his hand's memory. Apprentices are taught first to clean and return them in perfect order, for a smith's rhythm falters if he must search when metal is white hot. Morning trade. As the fire wakes, so does the village. Soon boots scuff on packed earth outside. The first arrival may be a farmer with a plowshare cracked on a hidden stone. He lifts the heavy iron onto a bench with a groan of relief. Next comes a shepherd boy clutching broken shears. A brewer's servant might appear needing a fresh hoop or cracked barrel. The smith nods, inspects, and sets each item aside, already deciding which will heat first. Payment varies. Some customers carry coin, but more often they bring eggs, butter, wool, or promise of grain come harvest. The smith keeps mental tallies. He knows which neighbors pay promptly, which struggle, which repay with favors. In a community where cash is rare, trust is as vital as hammer. Then comes the sound of hooves. Horses are the blacksmith's special pride. Whether great cart beast or small farm pony, each must be shod for work. Shoeing requires patience. The animal snorts, uneasy at sparks and clang. The smith speaks softly, lifts hoof, trims horn with practiced knife. A glowing shoe, fresh from fire, is pressed briefly to shape hoof. Steam hisses, the scent sharp but harmless. Nails are driven quick and sure, clenched tight, and the horse stamps ready for road. Farmers judge a smith by his farriery. A well-shod horse is strength for plough and wagon alike. Apprentices and learning. Few men are born smiths. Most begin as apprentices at 12 or 13, sent by parents or bound to master by formal agreement. The apprentice lives half servant, half student, stoking fire, working bellows, sweeping floor, fetching water, grinding edges. Yet he also watches how master reads iron's color, how he lifts hammer with grace, how each sound tells of heat or hardness. Training lasts years. A boy learns first to strike while master holds heavy sledging in rhythm, sparks flying. Next he shapes nails, rivets, small hooks. Slowly he learns welding, heating two pieces to white, sprinkling sand, striking just so until metal fuses seamless. Only after long practice may he fashion complex items or attempt tempering of blades. When ready, he becomes journeyman free to travel and work in other forges, seeking mastery and perhaps someday opening his own shop. Guilds, where towns are large enough, protect the craft. They set prices, quality, and training standards. Even in villages without formal guild, smiths share a brotherhood of skill. Strangers passing through may trade tips or borrow coal in need. The metal's journey. Iron itself arrives by trade and toil. Local ore, dug from shallow pits or bogs, is smelted in simple furnaces called bloomeries. Charcoal feeds the fire until ore yields a spongy bloom of iron. This crude lump is hammered to drive out slag, then carted to smiths. Some villages buy bars from merchants traveling with pack horses, others smelt their own. A smith learns to judge quality by sound and spark. Good iron rings true and spit bright white sparks when ground. Poor iron spits dull red. Charcoal, too, is vital and costly. Woodsmen cut timber in winter, stack and smother it under turf to burn slowly, producing the light, hot fuel. Without steady supply, a forge cools. Thus smiths' ties to woodcutters and merchants are close. He is part of a hidden network that keeps metalwork alive. Seasons of work. The forge's rhythm follows the farming year. Spring plows and harrows are mended, horses reshod for fresh tillage, scythes sharpened for hay. Summer. Carts creak under grain, their wheels and axles need constant care. Hoes, sickles, knives pass through forge for quick fixes. Autumn. Tools sharpened for harvest, cider presses and wine screws repaired. Hunters ask for arrowheads and boar spears. Winter. With fields resting, work turns to domestic and craft. Hearth pokers, hinges, locks, cooking spit, ornate candle holders, and sometimes fine commissions ironwork for church door or weather vane for manor. In cold months, the forge becomes village hearth. People linger by fire's warmth, trading news while smith works. Children watch sparks with awe. In summer the doors stand wide, swallows dart in and out, and heat shimmers while sweat runs down smith's arms. Rain on the roof hisses softly as it cools iron smoke. More than a tradesman. Because he touches every life, the smith is often trusted advisor. Travelers ask him about road conditions. Neighbors pause to share worries while waiting. He may quietly keep tally of who is struggling mending tools on credit when harvest fails. Some villagers believe forge smoke drives away illness. Horses are led in circle round fire to cure lameness. Sick children pass briefly through doorway to banish evil. The smith may smile, unsure if it works, but tradition is strong. Festivals depend on him too. For weddings he forges new locks or handsome iron gifts. For fairs he makes bells and spits. For building barns he shapes nails by handful. When church needs new bell frame or weathercock, he is called. In a world without mass production, his skill is the difference between want and plenty. Stories by the anvil. Every forge gathers stories. Farmers arrive cursing rocks that broke a plow. A bride might commission simple iron ring when gold is beyond reach. Once a traveling knight rides in, armor dented from skirmish. The smith and apprentice spend hours reshaping breastplate with careful blows, and by night the knight offers coin and tale of border wars. Pilgrims bring news of distant shrines. Merchants tell of far cities. Thus even a quiet village learns of the wide world through forge gossip. Children beg for trinkets. Many a boy treasures first small hook or ring hammered from scrap. Some keep old nails as charms. Apprentices from other towns sometimes visit, testing skills and learning local tricks. Over years, the forge becomes archive of tiny encounters, each echoing in ring of hammer. Faith and fire. Faith mingles with heat. A small crucifix hangs near anvil, dark with soot. The smith might mutter a quick prayer before tempering a blade or striking final weld. On St. Clement's Day, patron of blacksmiths, villagers bring offerings, bread, ale, candles. Sometimes the priest blesses forge itself, sprinkling holy water on anvil and bellows. Few crafts feel as close to mystery as shaping earth's stone with fire into tools that plow, build, and defend. Evening quiet. At day's end, the forge glows softer. The last horse shod, the last hinge filed smooth. Customers gather goods, paying in coin, barter, or promise. Children linger, sleepy in warmth, eyes bright at sparks. Apprentice sweeps floor, banks fire under ash to smolder until dawn. The smith hangs hammers, oils tongs, and steps outside. His body aches, hands rough and blackened, but heart is calm. He has kept the community alive another day. Fields ready, carts rolling, doors secure. Above, stars prick a velvet sky. From cottages drift smells of supper and distant song. The forge's place in the world. In chronicles, kings wage war and merchants cross seas, but none of it would stand without countless humble forges. Each village depends on one, a quiet anchor of survival. The forge is workshop, news house, healer, and hearth. Its fire links earth to sky, ore to bread, danger to safety. So when you think of the Middle Ages, think not only of castles or cathedrals, but of this modest place, sparks flying into dusk, hammer ringing steady, a man and his apprentice shaping glowing metal, while neighbors wait and talk. It is here, in such small fiery rooms, that the true life of the age was forged. Before the sun climbs high and while the fields still lie quiet, another sound joins the waking village, the slow, heavy turning of a water wheel. At first it is only a soft creak and splash, but soon it becomes a steady rhythm, wooden paddles dipping into the mill stream and lifting out with a slap of water. Where the road bends toward the river or a small diverted channel, there stands the mill low and wide, its roof mossy, its walls smelling of grain and damp wood. It is here that the village's harvest becomes bread, and it is here that stories gather like chaff on the floor. The mill is more than a building. It is an engine that powers the lives of farmers, bakers, brewers, and hungry families. Without it, grain must be crushed by hand with stone querns, a weary, slow business. With it, a single wheel and a clever arrangement of gears to grind in an hour what would have taken days of back-breaking labor. The miller, keeper of this noisy, turning heart, holds a quiet authority in the community. The day begins with water. Long before the first farmer arrives, the miller steps outside to inspect the mill race channel that brings a portion of the river to his wheel. He walks the banks in dawn light, listening for leaks or blockages. Fallen branches or night-washed debris can choke the flow. If water is low, he adjusts small gates to trap enough for steady turning. A mill without water is a giant at rest. Inside, the air smells of damp grain and old wood. Beams are dark with age, and flour dust lies on every ledge. Rats skitter unseen in corners, though cats keep numbers down. The great water wheel creaks into life as the miller opens sluice gates. Paddles catch current, and slowly the wheel begins to revolve. Its motion travels through the wall to a complicated wooden gear train, a main shaft, cogs and lantern gears that rise to the millstones above. The stones themselves are enormous, each a flat round of dressed granite, one fixed and one turning, their faces carved with careful grooves that shear and crush the kernels into meal. The miller's first job is to dress the stones if needed, Over weeks of grinding, their patterns wear smooth, dull stones crush poorly, heating grain and spoiling flour. Dressed stones cut clean and cool. The miller kneels with iron pick and slowly chips new furrows, a rhythmic tapping like a woodpecker's song. It is dusty work, but essential, and a good miller knows how to keep his stones true and flat. Soon the first customers arrive, sacks slung over shoulders or balanced on carts. Farmers greet the miller with cautious courtesy. His toll for grinding, often a 16th part of the flour, is required by law or custom. Some grumble at the cut, but few dare quarrel openly. The mill is too important, and the lord of the manor usually protects his miller, for the toll is often shared with the estate. Still, the miller must keep trust. If he cheats, taking more than his share or weighing unfairly, the whole village will know, and tempers can flare. A young boy may come first, sent by mother with a single small sack for family bread. He waits while miller hoists it up, pours grain slowly into the hopper above the stones. The boy listens, wide-eyed, as the stones begin their deep humming grind. Flour dust drifts like fine snow, coating hair and lashes. The miller chats as he works, asking after family or telling bits of news, an accident on road, a fair coming soon, the birth of a neighbor's child. Then come heavier loads, great carts from wealthier farmers, perhaps even from the manor. Horses stamp and blow while men wrestle sacks inside. The mill fills with voices and shifting weight. As the wheel turns and stones rumble, a warm vibration runs through the floor, and the whole room feels alive, powered by the steady rush of water just outside. The work is it without danger. Millstones must never run empty. Without grain between them, they strike fire from one another and can crack. The water flow must be watched. Sudden surges to spin wheel too fast and shatter gears. Belts and shafts snap. Fingers caught in moving parts are lost in an instant. Flour dust, so gentle in air, can flare explosively if spark and stillness combine. A wise miller keeps alert and teaches any helper the same careful respect. Some mills have an apprentice or son who learns as he labors. He cleans, bags flour, patches sluice gates, oils gears, and above all, listens to the tone of turning stones, the change in hum that means grain has run low, the way the wheel's splash shifts if debris catches. A good apprentice becomes an heir, a careless one courts ruin. The mill is also a social place. Farmers waiting their turn sit on benches, drink ale or cider brought along, and talk. They exchange gossip about crops, marriages, weather. Sometimes they sing to pass ein, sometimes arguments spark whose grain was cut first, whose oxes blocked the lane. The miller keeps a cautious ear, quick to pour oil on anger, for fights are bad for business and reputation. Yet he also serves as informal judge at times, helping settle disputes with his authority and neutrality. Beyond grain, the mill may turn for other work. Some villages grind not only wheat, but barley, rye, oats, even beans. In regions with flax or hemp, the wheel may power simple fulling to clean and thicken cloth, or pound bark for tanning leather. A versatile mill is a sign of wealth. Water power drive hammers, saws, or presses, but always the heart is flour daily bread of all. The miller's house, usually attached, hums with its own life. His wife may bake bread from tall flour, selling loaves to neighbors. Children grow up amid splash and rumble, learning early to avoid gears and respect water's force. Cats and dogs wander freely. Ducks float where sluice meets pond. In winter, the mill becomes warm refuge. In summer, its damp coolness is relief from heat. Travelers sometimes shelter nearby, drawn by sound and safety. Seasons change the mill song. In spring, the stream runs fast with meltwater, and wheel turns strong. Summer will bring drought, slowing work. Miller wakes at night to adjust gates, conserving every drop. Autumn is busiest, when harvest crowds the yard with carts. Farmers wait long hours, playing dice on sacks while mist rises from river. Winter slows as fields sleep, yet mill still runs steady to feed the village. Snow muffles wheels creak, but smoke curls warmly from chimney, and light glows inviting against white banks. Though humble, the miller's position is powerful and sometimes resented. His toll to feel heavy when harvest is poor. Stories of greedy millers who cheat abound in tavern tales. Some lords deliberately keep miller a little feared to ensure payment. Yet a wise miller tempers power with fairness, lending small grain to hungry neighbor, keeping scales honest, offering kind word. Over years, such a man earns deep if quiet respect. Faith, too, touches the mill. Many a miller keeps a saint's image nailed above door, often St. Arnulf or St. Nicholas. On feast days he may scatter first handful of flour as blessing. Some believe the steady water and turning wheel have protective virtue. Charms hang to guard against fire or flood. When drought lingers, villagers may pray at nearby shrine, asking saints to send rain and set wheel turning again. By late afternoon, the rush slows. Farmers collect flour, lifting lighter sacks now soft and pale. Mill floor lies thick with fine dust. Air glows golden in slanting light. The wheel still turns, but slower. Gates are closed bit by bit to rest the stream. Cats curl on warm flour bags, and the miller, face white with powder, counts his toll portion. He sweeps, oils gears, and listens to the last steady trickle of water. Evening settles gently. The miller walks the mill race once more, closing sluice to let river reclaim its full course. Frog song begins along banks. From his doorway he watches twilight gather while wheel drips and stills. Tomorrow it will all start again. Water harnessed, grain crushed, bread made possible. For travelers, the sight of a mill signals safety. It means crops, bread, steady life. For villagers, its rumble is background music to existence, a sign of prosperity and continuity. In Chronicles of Kings and Knights, mills rarely earn a line, yet without them no army marches, no household eats, no brewer ferments ale. So if you wander through a medieval countryside, pause where road meets water and listen. Hear the slow creak and splash, smell flour and damp wood. Inside, a man and his helpers labor among gears and grain, turning harvest into sustenance. This is the miller's wheel, unassuming, vital, steady as the river itself. Beneath the grand halls and lofty towers of a medieval castle, far from banners and tapestries, roars a world of fire and scent, the kitchens and bakehouse. Here, among huge hearths and echoing stone vaults, an army of cooks and helpers feed not only the lord and his household, but also guards, servants, guests, and sometimes half the countryside during feast days. It is hot, noisy, fragrant, and endlessly busy, the unseen heart that keeps a fortress alive. The kitchen is usually built in the castle's lower court or a separate stone range to guard against fire. Thick walls, high chimneys, and arched windows vent heat and smoke. Floors are flagged in stone, blackened by centuries of soot. Racks of spits, huge cauldrons, and iron hooks fill the space. Above, beams and pulley ropes dangle to lift heavy pots. The air smells of wood smoke, roasting meat, herbs, and baking bread. Before dawn, kitchen staff begin their day. Scullions and turnspits stoke fires from embers kept overnight, sweeping hearth and sharpening knives. Potboys haul water from well or cistern, shoulders straining under sloshing buckets. Gardeners and foragers bring baskets of herbs, onions, leeks. Dairymaids arrive with fresh milk and butter churned before sunup. Soon the head cook strides in, often a stern, clever man or woman with years of craft. First task, bread. The bakehouse, sometimes a separate chamber with great domed ovens, glows red before light. Bakers heat with bundles of faggots, then rake coals aside and sweep stone floors clean. Dough from previous night's kneading, wheat for lord's table, rye or maslin for servants, goes in on long wooden peels. The smell of baking fills every passage. Bread is life here, trenchers for meat, loaves for guards, fine white manchet for nobility. Meanwhile, kitchen hearths come alive. Gigantic spit hold whole sides of beef, venison haunches or boars for feasts. Turnspit boys, sometimes chained dogs, run wheels in larger kitchens, keep meat slowly rotating. Cauldrons bubble with pottages, thick stews of grain, root, and bits of meat or fish to feed workers. Skillets fry onions in dripping. Kettles heat ale mulled with spice. Supplies arrive steadily through postern doors, fish from river, game from park, flour from mill, casks of ale and wine rolled from cool cellars. Pantry clerks tally each, cellarers unlock storerooms stacked with cheese, dried beans, salted pork, barrels of herring and fragrant spices, cinnamon, cloves, pepper for lord's dishes. These are wealth worth more than gold by weight. Hierarchy hums, head cook plans menu according to season and lord's wishes. Roast peacock with gilded feathers for feast, plain boiled beef for garrison. Undercooks chop and stir, pastry cooks craft pies both savory and sweet. Sauce makers grind herbs, nuts, and vinegar in mortars. Boys fetch and carry, learning slowly. Scullions scrub endless pots, each knows place. Kitchen runs like small army. On ordinary day, meals come twice. Hearty midday dinner and lighter supper at dusk. Guards and servants eat simple fare, coarse bread, pottage, cheese. Nobles dine on white bread, roasts, game birds, fish in sauce, custards, fruit tarts. Presentation matters, trenchers arranged with color, sauces poured bright green or golden. Some cooks carve coats of arms in pie crusts, or craft sugar subtleties shaped like castles or beasts. Feast day is storm of effort. Hunters bring deer, fishermen deliver fresh catch. Butchers in courtyard strip carcasses, meat salted or hung. Pastry cooks mold huge crust coffins to hold spiced fillings. Sauciers crush almonds for blancmange, boil sugar for sweets. Pages run messages, stewards oversee with sharp eye. Fires blaze hotter, air thick with spice and roast. Musicians may slip in to test hall's sound. All know Lord expects spectacle. Danger never far. Fire is greatest fear, spark on straw could destroy whole keep. Water kept nearby, stone vaulting and detached bakehouse help, but staff stay watchful. Burns and cuts common, turnspit boys' arms ache from hours at wheel. Smoke stings eyes, heat drains strength, yet pride carries them. To feed castle is honor. Season changes menu. Spring brings young lamb, herbs, fresh eggs. Summer fills larders with berries, river fish, early grains. Autumn is bounty slaughter of hogs, apples, nuts, mushrooms. Winter leans on salted meat, dried peas, stored roots, with spice to enliven. Cooks know how to stretch stores yet surprise palate, skill prized by lord. Faith threads kitchen too. Meatless days keep fishmongers busy. Cooks create rich dishes without flesh. Eel pies, almond milk stews, feast of patron saint may see blessed bread. Lent transforms menu entirely. Prayers said for safety of hearth and plenty of larders. At night, after last platters cleared from great hall and leftovers sent to servants or poor at gate, kitchen finally slows. Fires banked but not out, bread ovens cooling. Staff eat plain supper, Bits of roast, stew, bread dipped in dripping, laughing and recounting feast. Knives honed, pots scrubbed till shine, floors swept of bones and spilled flour. Head cook checks stores by lamplight, plans next day. The bakehouse too rests, ovens dark until midnight. Bakers return to knead dough for morning. Outside, guards patrol silent court. From windows wafts faint warm scent of cooling loaves. A fortress sleeps easier when its belly is full. To imagine castle life, do not picture only banners and knights. Picture this roaring, fragrant kitchen and bakehouse, where unknown hands fed armies and nobles, turned harvest into sustenance, and kept stone halls warm with life. Beyond the gatehouse and the busy outer yard lies the beating heart of any medieval castle or manor, the great hall. Step through its heavy doors and you enter a world at once practical and ceremonial, where the ordinary life of servants mingles with the glitter of feasts and the quiet gravity of justice. The building itself is impressive by design. Even a modest hall towers higher than the cottages outside the walls. Its roof beams, often oak darkened by smoke, rise like the ribs of an upturned ship. Walls are lime-washed or hung with woven tapestries to soften the chill. At one end, a vast hearth blazes beneath a hooded chimney, or in older places, an open central fire smolders with smoke venting through louvered roof. The floor may be packed earth in humble manners, but in great castles it is paved with stone or covered with strewn rushes scented with herbs. Morning begins quietly. Servants sweep yesterday's rushes and lay fresh, scattering lavender or mint to sweeten the air. Benches are scrubbed, tables set on trestles for whatever meal or meeting the day brings. Dogs doze by hearth while kitchen boys hurry past with trenchers and ale. Sunlight filters through narrow windows, catching dust motes and casting gold on worn banners. Soon the Lord's household stirs. Stewards enter first, checking tallies and planning work. Messengers deliver letters sealed with wax. Clerks unroll parchment to record rents or judgments. Minor nobles or visiting merchants wait along walls, hats in hand, hoping for audience. Guards warm themselves near fire, their mail softly clinking. The hall feels like crossroads where every strand of the estate's life passes. Meals punctuate the day. The main meal comes at mid-morning or noon. Long tables fill. Lord and lady at high table on a raised dais, beneath canopy or painted screen. Family and honored guests nearby, household knights, chaplains, clerks, and servants farther down. Trenchers of coarse bread hold meat or pottage. Ale and wine flow in shared cups. Spices show wealth if used. Minstrels may play softly. Hawks perch along wall, and dogs skitter under benches for scraps. Conversation hums. Business near dais. Gossip farther down. Seating shows rank. To sit near the high table is honor. To eat at its board is privilege. Even the order of serving matters. Dishes pass first to lord, then downward. Stewards and butlers orchestrate with quiet mastery, while kitchen staff scurry unseen. On feast days the scene swells with color. Tapestries fresh hung, candles blazing, musician loud, fools capering to laughter. Platters of roasted boar or peacock arrive, subtlety, sugar sculpture, might grace table if wealth allows. But the hall is it only for eating? It is courtroom and council chamber. After meal or on set days, the lord sits in carved chair or beneath canopy to hear petitions. Villagers come to seek judgment in disputes over land or debt. Merchants request safe passage or license to sell. Minor crimes are tried, theft, trespass, poaching. Witnesses speak, clerks record. Sometimes punishments are mild fines, sometimes harsh. The Lord's word here carries weight of law. Ceremony thrives in this space. Oaths of fealty are sworn on gospel or sword. Marriages are celebrated before hearth, then feasted at same tables. Knights are dubbed with solemn taps on shoulder. Heralds proclaim news of war or peace. Messengers present gifts from distant courts. Even in peaceful times, such rituals remind all who holds power. Daily business can be surprisingly homely. In corners, scribes tally harvest or taxes. Bailiffs confer about sheep and timber. A falconer might report on birds' health. A huntsman discuss tomorrow's chase. Artisans bring work for approval, a new saddle, a repaired door. Children of lordly house sometimes play at far end under nurse's eye, while parents speak with retainers. Thus grandeur and domesticity mingle under same soaring beams. Season shapes the hall. In winter fires roar huge, and rushes are deep to warm cold stone. Guests huddle near hearth while snow drives outside. In spring, banners and garlands fresh as walls. Talk turns to planting and hunts. Summer brings open doors, cooling breezes, musicians and minstrels in brighter mood. Autumn fills tables with harvest plenty. Accounts of grain and wine dominate clerks' work. Lighting shifts with sun. By day, narrow windows spill pale glow. By night, candles and oil lamps shimmer across polished cups and weapons. Shadows leap on tapestries telling saints' tales or past battles. Firelight warms faces and makes jewels sparkle. It also hides cracks and humble rushes in forgiving dark. The hall listens to every voice. It hears prayers before meal, laughter of guests, the sharp cry of justice pronounced, the soft sob of widow petitioning mercy. It echoes with footsteps of countless servants and the clink of arms. In siege or crisis, it becomes command center, tables cleared for maps, captains leaning over plans while messengers run. Despite grandeur, it is lived in. Dogs sleep on rushes, smoke blackens roof beams, spilled ale soaks floor. Children chase each other when no ceremony holds sway. Servants gossip in corners. The hall breathes like a living creature, shifting from solemn court to noisy feast to quiet hearth in one day. At night it transforms again. Tables are cleared, benches stacked, fires banked to slow glow, guards pace at edges, travelers granted shelter sleep along walls wrapped in cloaks. In humbler manners, even lord's household may bed down here when upper chambers are few. The smell is of smoke, wool, and warm stone, silence broken by snores, an occasional restless dog, the drip of wax. Feast nights linger late, lutes play, dancers whirl, wine flows till jokes grow bold. Torches flare high, shadows leap, and from dais the Lord may toast guests or listen to tales of heroism. When revel ends, echoes fade slowly. Only embers and a few drowsing servants remain. Dawn will come soon, and with it sweeping and fresh rushes for another day's round. To understand medieval power, one must know this room. The great hall isn't merely dining space, but stage of rule, justice, hospitality, and memory. Here alliances are forged, disputes ended, stories told that bind lord to people. It is public face of household and private heart at once. So when you picture a castle, see not only battlements, but this long, firelit chamber. Hear clatter of trenchers, rustle of silk beside homespun, whispered prayers, shouted commands. Smell roasting meat, beeswax, smoke. The great hall gathers a whole world under its beams, a place where power wears human face and night ends in warmth. Step away from the noisy square and follow a narrow lane lined with timbered houses and small workshops. At its end stands a heavier, prouder building, the Guildhall. Here, behind carved doors and tall windows, the lifeblood of the medieval town is organized, protected, and celebrated. For the craftsman or merchant, this isn't just an office. It is the beating heart of trade, honor, and shared fate. The Guildhall's shape depends on wealth, but always it shows quiet authority. In some towns it is stone, with arched entry and carved shield showing tools of the trade, a shoemaker's knife, a weaver's shuttle, a hammer and tongs. In others it is timber frame yet grand, with wide porch where notices are nailed and deals struck in shadow of its roof. Flags may flutter bearing guild emblem, a painted wheel, a golden key, or simple initials. Step inside and smell polish, wool, beeswax, and old smoke. The hall is long and high, rafters dark with age. Benches line walls, a raised dais holds great chair for guildmaster. Windows are few but high, light falls in bars across plank floor. Shields, banners, or painted boards proclaim the craft's history. Perhaps a carved chest stands near, heavy with charters and precious seal that marks all official business. This space, is it idle? It is courtroom, school, feast hall, and bank all in one. Here apprentices are sworn, masters examined, disputes judged, prices fixed. The guild keeps measures honest, a standard loaf, an official ell for cloth, a marked weight for spice or metal. To cheat these is to risk fine or expulsion. On ordinary mornings, clerks sit at table copying accounts or charters. Journeymen arrive to pay dues. Masters bring complaints or proposals. The air hums with talk of trade. Which dye merchant has best madder? Which road's unsafe? Who has invented clever loom or safer lock? Decisions ripple outward to every shop and stall. When an apprentice is bound to a master, ceremony happens here. The boy, sometimes girl, kneels or bows. Parents pay small fee and promise obedience. Guild master blesses tools, needle, plane, knife. Oaths sworn to work hard, keep secrets, respect craft. Records inked into thick register. From that day, child belongs to this brotherhood. Years later, the same hall sees masterpiece judged. Journeyman presents work, shoe without flaw, chest with perfect joinery, cloth evenly woven, lock cunningly made. Elders lean close, measuring, tapping, murmuring. If approved, journeyman becomes master, free to open own shop and take apprentices. It is a moment of pride, often followed by feast. Discipline too plays out here. If baker cheats on weight, if tanner pollutes stream, if locksmith sells secrets, he may be fined, shamed, or barred. Stocks may stand outside door, sometimes offender must parade through square. Honor matters, for guild reputation binds all members together. Feasting transforms hall. Long tables set with bread, cheese, roasted meat, barrels of ale or wine tapped, candles lit in iron chandeliers. Songs of the craft echo under rafters, sometimes solemn, sometimes merry with fiddles and pipes. On Saints' Feast, often the patron of the trade, Mass said first, then procession through streets with banners, then great meal. Here masters advise younger men, marriages arranged, alliances forged. Guild charity shines too. Chests hold funds to aid widows, care for sick, bury dead. When fire ruins a workshop, guild may rebuild. When member jailed unjustly, they may pay bail or plead case. Orphans of masters might be apprenticed to others free of charge. Through guild, craft becomes family beyond blood. Wider power stirs here as well. Guilds lobby town council, influencing laws on tolls or market rights. Wealthy guilds lend money to princes or bishops. Some raise militias when city threatened. Their banners to decide politics. Their masters may serve as mayors. Beneath humble tools lies quiet might. Education blooms under guild roof. Young members taught not only craft, but letters, numbers, and law. Some halls keep small libraries of trade secrets, patent books, or foreign weights. Travelers returning from fairs share tales of distant fashion and invention, widening every year's horizon. The Guildhall is also a sanctuary of pride, tools polished and displayed, great seals guarded, charters treasured as proof of rights won against lords or kings. Here artisans remember they are not serfs but skilled men and women whose labor shapes towns' wealth. Festivals parade this pride with banners and embroidered hoods, each trade marching behind its master to church and back, drums and trumpets sounding. At night the hall grows quiet but not lifeless. Lamps burn low while clerks tally accounts, watchmen pace outside. Sometimes secret council meets to plan price rises or defend against rival guild. Sometimes a poor craftsman sleeps by fire after a long journey, safe under Brotherhood's roof. When you think of medieval city, think not only of Lord's castle or Bishop's palace, but of this Guildhall, sturdy, busy, proud. Here ordinary hands found strength in unity, here craft became power. Here a town's very identity was forged, one oath, one masterpiece, one shared meal at a die. At some point, every road meets water, a slow brown river sliding through meadows, a deep green torrent roaring from mountain snow, a lazy tidal channel widening toward the sea. Sooner or later, the traveler halts before a stretch of moving current. In the Middle Ages, such crossings were both lifeline and trial. Bridges and ferries decided the shape of trade, pilgrimage, and everyday travel. To reach the other side could mean safety and fortune. To be stranded could mean delay, danger, even death. Rivers were the natural boundaries of medieval Europe. They divided lordships and dioceses, marked toll rights and markets, and formed frontiers where languages changed. They also nourished life. Mills turned on their banks, fields drank their water, fish filled baskets, and towns sprang up at fords and ferries. Yet rivers were capricious. They flooded without warning, swept away carts, and hid treacherous holes. For those on foot or wheel, crossing was a moment of humility before nature. The oldest crossing was the ford, a shallow stretch of fir gravel where oxen could wade and wagons roll with luck. But fords were tricky. After rain, harmless trickle could become fierce torrent. Merchants dreaded them. Pilgrims prayed at nearby shrines. Many fords were marked by wayside crosses where lives had been lost. In time, communities improved them with stones and timbers, but they remained vulnerable to flood. So came the bridge, first of timber. Villagers felled oak and drove piles deep into mud, laying planks and rails. Simple footbridges crossed streams, larger ones bore carts. Yet wood rots, ice splits, floods sweep away whole spans. Building and keeping a bridge demanded money and labor, and thus the right to maintain one and charge a toll became valuable. Lords, abbots, towns, and even wealthy guilds built bridges to secure trade and glory. Some bridges grew into marvels. Great piers of stone rose from rivers, arches carrying road high above flood. In France and Spain, in Italy and Germany, medieval masons built spans that still stand. They cut cofferdams to work dry in riverbed, raised pointed arches to shed force of current, and topped them with chapels or towers. A bridge was more than engineering, it was civic pride, symbol of protection and lucrative gate for tolls. Travelers paid coins to cross. In return, they found safer passage and often market beyond. Bridge tolls shaped routes. A shrewd lord set fair fee to lure merchants. A greedy one lost trade to rival ford or ferry upstream. Some bridges were declared free by royal charter, a great boon to commerce. Others became famous for oppression. Chroniclers tell of merchants detouring miles to avoid a baron's grasping hand. At times, whole towns rose because a bridge offered reliable, cheap crossing fares bloomed where caravans gathered to wait their turn. Ferries thrived where bridges failed. At wide tidal rivers, deep gorges, or shifting sandbanks, no stable span could last. Here the ferryman ruled. His craft might be humble punt poled across calm water, or broad flatboat guided by rope or chain. Some ferries used sail when wind served. Others hauled themselves hand over hand on fixed cables. At busy sites, the service ran all day. Wagons rolled aboard, horses snorted, pilgrims clutched staves while water lapped. Fares were set by custom but haggling common. The ferryman's life was hard and respected. He woke with dawn to check boat, bale water, grease ropes, mend planks. He knew the moods of current, the sandbars and snags, the safe angle for landing. In flood he might risk life-saving traveler swept away. In winter he battled ice floes. Many ferrymen were famed for courage and cunning. Some became local heroes, yet income was uncertain. Storms stopped trade, lords demanded cut, and pirates or bandit threatened. Crossings often became small worlds of their own. An inn would spring up nearby, offering food to those waiting on tide or turn. Blacksmiths worked close, repairing carts broken by rough banks. A tiny chapel might stand where pilgrims prayed before stepping aboard. Markets formed where caravans gathered, bread, ale, charms, spare harness. News flowed here faster than elsewhere, brought by every traveler forced to pause. There was also ritual and superstition. Travelers tossed coins or herbs into water for safe passage. Ferrymen hung saints' images on prow, often Saint Christopher, patron of travelers. Some bridges bore chapels mid-span, where one knelt to thank God for safe crossing or pray for souls lost to river. Toll keepers might keep relic or holy water to bless those paying. Folk tales flourished. Devils tricked into building bridges overnight. Saints fighting river spirits. Ghostly processions on stormy nights. The crossing shaped daily life too. Farmers timed trips to market by ferry schedule. Lovers met at bridges midpoint, exchanging gifts before parting. Soldiers guarded spans in war. Whoever held bridge held road. Kings planned campaigns around fords and crossings. Even humble peasants knew strategic value. A broken bridge could starve a town. A secret ford could save an army. Engineers, though they would not use that name, were prized. A master carpenter might design trestles and pile drivers. A mason planned piers and arches. Towns invested heavily. Abbeys sometimes funded bridges as pious works. Records tell of brotherhoods of the bridge. Lay confraternities devoted to building and repairing one span for generations. Donations poured in. Travelers prayed for benefactors' souls as they crossed. Flood was ever the enemy. Whole spans vanished overnight. Ferries swept downstream. Chroniclers note winters when ice tore timbers apart, or springs when sudden melt drowned toll houses. Rebuilding could take years and fortunes. Some towns built stone only after losing Woodbridge again and again. Each flood left stories of daring rescues, lost wagons, floating barrels, miraculous survivals. Season colored the experience. In spring, swollen rivers roared, ferries risky, bridges creaking under meltwater. Summer meant easy passage but long queues at busy trade routes. Autumn with its rains raised current again. Merchants hurried before floods. Winter froze some fords solid. Carts rattled across ice, yet could break treacherously without warning. Ferrymen chopped channels, cursed freezing ropes, and sometimes laid planks across half-frozen spans. By night, the crossing changed mood. Lanterns swung on bridge towers, reflecting gold in black water. Ferrymen rode under stars, boat rocking gently while passengers murmured prayers. Wolves howled beyond banks, an owl cried. To cross at night was brave or desperate, but sometimes need drove travelers onward. The river under moonlight felt wider, darker, filled with mystery. Economy flourished around these points. Toll keepers counted coins by lamplight. Inns prospered. Carpenters built carts durable enough for rough ramps. Smiths sold fittings for ferry chains. Even beggars knew good bridge could mean alms from softened travelers. Artists sketched spans, poets sang of faithful ferrymen or cursed toll lord. Some crossings became famous meeting places. Peace treaties signed mid-bridge, rival lords halting on neutral planks. Pilgrims from many lands mingled waiting for boat. Markets at such spots grew into towns. What began as lone ferry hut became bustling port. A whole settlement might rise simply because river demanded pause. Yet each crossing, humble or grand, carried a sense of threshold. To step on bridge or boat was to leave something and face unknown shore. Merchants felt risk and hope. Pilgrims whispered prayers. Soldiers tightened grip on sword. Lovers parted or reunited. A journey's most vivid memory was often the river, the hiss of water, the sway of boat, the hum and creak of boards. Even today, many medieval bridges still arch across European rivers, worn smooth by countless feet. Their stones hold whispers of carts and cloaks, of prayers and curses, laughter and fear. Some ferries run still in quiet corners, little changed from centuries past. So if you imagine medieval travel, picture not only roads and carts, but this, a silver river blocking the way, lantern light on wet planks, ferrymen calling softly, bridge toll ringing in coffer. These crossings shaped the map of trade and faith, one boatload, one arch, one cautious step at a time. Where the great trade road bends between meadow and wood, a small stone shrine keeps silent watch. Travelers pass it every day, merchants with wagons, peasants on foot, pilgrims with staves, riders in hurry, and those who have nowhere urgent to go. It is simple, a single arch of fieldstone, roofed in slate, with a wooden figure inside, part saint, part old guardian of the way. Beside it stands a bench worn smooth, and before it a flat stone where offerings gather. At dawn the shrine is wrapped in mist, dew beads the low roof and silver threads the grass. Birds call softly in the hedgerow, and the road lies quiet except for one man, an old carter named Hugo, leading his single mule. He stops, as he always does, and sets down his load. From his pouch he takes a crust of bread and lays it on the stone. He bows his head, murmuring thanks for another safe night and strength for the miles ahead. The mule flicks its ears and noses the grass. The shrine's guardian figure is carved of oak, darkened by rain and sun. It is hard to tell if it shows a saint, a shepherd, or a traveler with staff and bundle. Perhaps it has been all of these in turn. Its face is simple but kind, its hands lifted in blessing. Around its neck hangs a string of tokens left by passing folk, beads, brass rings, little bells, bits of colored cloth. At its feet lie pebbles, coins, dried flowers, and scraps of written prayers weighted with stones. By mid-morning the mist has lifted and the road begins to stir. A pair of pilgrims appear, walking slowly, staffs tapping the dust. They wear patched cloaks and carry small packs. One limps, the other steadies him. They pause at the shrine, bow deeply, and light a stub of candle, shielding the flame with cupped hands against the breeze. They sit on the bench to rest, sharing dried fruit, quiet in their tiredness but comforted by the little altar's presence. Soon a merchant wagon rattles up, driver and guard beside him. They stop, not long time as coin, but the merchant drops a copper on the stone, and the guard traces a quick sign of blessing before moving on. Dust settles in their wake. The shrine keeps its calm, unconcerned with how brief or deep each visit is. A young mother passes, carrying her baby in a sling and leading a small goat. She kneels briefly, whispers a prayer for safe passage and milk enough for the child. She leaves a sprig of rosemary tucked at the figure's feet. Then she moves on, her goat stepping patiently, the baby watching wide-eyed as light plays through the trees. Toward noon, the sun grows warm. A tinker with jingling pans arrives and decides to rest. He props his pack on the bench and eats cheese and bread. After a while, he takes a small bent spoon from his pouch and places it by the shrine, payment of gratitude perhaps, or hope for better trade. He hums an old tune as he goes, the sound fading down the road. The shrine sees many small dramas. Once a young man running from sorrow stops and kneels long, tears dropping onto the dust. Another time a bridal party passes, bright with ribbons and song. They stop laughing long enough to lay flowers and pray for good harvest and healthy children. On feast days, villagers come in small groups, sweeping the place, wreathing the figure in new green. This day, as the heat peaks, a wagon train comes slowly from the west. Merchants, guards, and a cook fire smell riding on the breeze. They halt to water their animals at the brook nearby. Some wander to the shrine, one guard lighting a taper for his sister far away, a cook leaving a coin from her small purse, a boy placing a stone just because he feels he should. No one lingers long, but their offerings join the quiet growing collection. In the afternoon a storm gathers, clouds boil up behind the hills, and the air thickens with the scent of rain. A lone rider gallops up and reins in sharply. He is soaked in sweat, his horse lathered. He dismounts, breathing hard, and kneels only a moment, touching his forehead to the stone. Then he mounts and is gone, lost to the rising wind. The shrine keeps his haste, like a breath held and released. When rain comes, it comes fast. Sheets of water blur the road, drumming on the slate roof. The shrine, snug beneath its arch, stands dry. A group of peasants huddles there, cloaks pulled tight. They laugh nervously, surprised by the downpour, and share a hunk of bread. A boy peers at the wooden figure and whispers a story about it, walking the road at night to chase away wolves. The others smile, letting him believe. After the storm, the air clears to a bright, rinsed world, leaves glitter, and the brook sings louder. Travelers shake out cloaks and move on. The shrine drips quietly, offerings washed fresh. A rainbow arches above for a breath-long time, and then the road returns to its soft, murmuring life. Toward evening, when shadows lengthen, a peddler comes with his small cart. He sets down a bundle and begins to sweep the wet leaves from the shrine's base. He is his hired. It is simply his habit when he passes. He straightens the offerings, tucks wilted flowers to the side, and lights a fresh candle. Then he sits on the bench to eat a little supper and watch the first stars prick the sky. As dusk deepens, more passers-by arrive. Two shepherd boys driving sheep home from Maplin pastures stop to rest. One dares to pluck the shrine's bell and lets it chime softly before the other shushes him. A merchant couple lights a taper for safe travel tomorrow. A farmer leading an ox cart pauses to stretch his back, nodding respectfully to the wooden figure. When the light is nearly gone, an old woman with a pack arrives from the east. She moves slowly, leaning on a staff, but her eyes are bright. She kneels a long time, lips moving in prayer. Then she takes from her pouch a tiny loaf of bread, no bigger than a fist, and sets it before the shrine. She touches the carved hand and smiles as if greeting an old friend, before settling to sleep on the bench under her cloak. The shrine keeps watch over her. Night gathers gently, fireflies drift in the hedgerow, an owl calls from the wood. The road quiets to almost nothing but the sigh of wind. The shrine stands, dark but not forgotten, candlelight flickering on the wooden face. Each small gift glows faintly. Copper coins, pine cones, herbs, stones. The smell of wet earth and smoke from distant hearths hangs in the air. Far off, the bell tower of a town rings curfew. The sound carries softly across fields and hedges. The woman on the bench stirs but does not wake. Her sleep is easy here. The road itself seems to rest. Horses in far stables snort and settle. Carts stand silent under sheds, and the mountains beyond grow black against the stars. The shrine asks for nothing, yet gives a quiet strength. It is a pause in the long miles, a reminder that one is alone on the road. Travelers leave what they care, bread, coin, prayer, or only a breath. In return, they carry away a sense of blessing, small but real. By midnight, the candle gutters and dies, but the wooden face remains serene. Mist begins to gather again in the low hollows, silvering the stones. Somewhere beyond, another traveler is making his way, guided by moonlight, tired but hopeful. When he comes upon this place, he will find it waiting as it has for generations. A small roof, a quiet bench, and a carved guardian ready to listen. The sun has long slipped below the western hills, leaving only a band of pale light to linger for a moment before night fully takes the streets. Lanterns bloom one by one along the lanes, their yellow glow soft and swaying in the faint evening breeze. Roofs that seemed busy and sunlit hours ago now huddle in quiet shadow, and the town exhales a deep, contented breath. The clamor of the day has faded to scattered footsteps, a closing door, the distant bark of a dog. In the marketplace, where earlier the cries of merchants rose and mingled, though the smell of dust and spice remains, the stalls have vanished like waking dreams, tables folded, goods tucked away, cobblestones swept clear. A lone watchman passes, lantern on a hook, pausing now and then to listen. His boots ring softly on the stones, and the silence seems to welcome him rather than fear him. Windows glow warmly across the town. Families gather for their evening meal, bread broken, stew ladled, small voices asking for more. Afterward comes the gentle chatter of homes winding down. A father mends a strap by candlelight. A mother braids her daughter's hair for sleep. An elder tells a story in low tones that make the children's eyes widen. Laughter floats out briefly before shutters close against the cool night air. In the tavern, the last drinkers linger by the embers of the hearth. Conversation is soft now, stripped of the day's bustle, settling into murmured confidences and quiet chuckles. The innkeeper wipes the counter with slow, easy strokes. The maid clears empty bowls, smiling faintly at a private thought. Soon they will bank the fire and lock the door, leaving only warmth and memory behind. The town watch takes up its rounds in earnest once darkness has settled. Lanterns sway from their poles, casting circles of gold that move slowly across the cobbles. The watchmen walk in pairs, boots steady, halberds rested lightly on their shoulders. They know these streets well. Creak of each signboard, the way a loose shutter rattles in the breeze. Now and then they pause to exchange a word with a late traveler or a baker preparing early bread. Near the gate, the bridge lies quiet under the stars. Its stones still hold the day's warmth, but they are empty now, save for the guards pacing with calm diligence. Beyond, the road stretches dark toward distant villages, but few dare it at night. The river below whispers to itself, catching glints of starlight on its rippled surface. Somewhere, a fish leaps with a soft splash and is gone again. In the narrow lanes, cats claim the silence. They slip along walls, tails high, their paws soundless on worn stone. Some hunt, some merely prowl, rulers of this quiet kingdom while humans sleep. A shutter creaks open just enough for a hand to toss a scrap to a waiting feline before vanishing again. The cat eats in peace, eyes gleaming faintly in the lantern's glow. Above, the night sky spreads deep and clear. Stars prick the darkness, familiar and comforting to those who glance upward while walking home. A single tower bell strikes to mark the hour, slow and sonorous. Its voice rolls through the empty streets, over rooftops, across the quiet fields beyond, then fades into stillness once more. In the houses of craftsmen, tools rest where they were left. Awls and hammers sleep beside finished shoes. Needles gleam faintly in the dark beside half-mended cloth. Tomorrow will bring new work, but tonight the benches are quiet. Only the faint smell of leather, wood, or wool lingers, mingling with the sweeter scent of banked hearth fires. A scholar candle still burns in one high window. Inside, a man leans over parchment, quill scratching softly as he works late. The street below is deserted, but he does not notice. He is lost in thought, steady and calm. Somewhere a mouse rustles in the wainscot, and the scholar smiles faintly, not even pausing his writing. Down by the riverbank, ferrymen sleep aboard their tide boats, cloaks pulled close against the chill. The water laps gently, a lullaby for those accustomed to its rhythm. One boat rocks slightly as a night breeze stirs, but the man within does not wake. Overhead, the lanterns on the bridge sway just enough to scatter light across the water like shards of amber. The churchyard is hushed, its stones silver under moonlight. Only the chapel door glows faintly, where a single candle burns before the altar. A priest kneels in silent prayer, hands folded, eyes closed. His voice is too soft to hear, but the peace he sends out seems to settle on the whole town like a blessing. Somewhere, a midwife walks quickly with the basket, summoned to a birth. Her steps are brisk but sure, the lantern on her arm swinging light across shuttered walls. A dog barks as she passes, then quiets, as if understanding the night's errand. Soon her footfalls fade into the sleeping town. Inside homes, the rhythm of sleep has taken hold. Parents curl beneath heavy quilts. Children sprawl in tangled nests of blankets. Infants breathe soft and slow in wooden cradles. Dreams move quietly among them, of markets and festivals, of far roads and safe returns, of bread and warmth and the small joys of the day. Above all, the town seems to hold its own dream. The streets lie like still rivers, lanterns glowing at their bends. The square rests after its lively hours. The bridge stands calm over water turned to shadowed glass. Each sound creak of wood, the sigh of wind, the soft splash of the river is gentle, unthreatening, as if the very stones know that night should soothe. When the bell strikes once more deep in the night, it finds the town asleep and untroubled. Only the watchmen hear it clearly, and they smile faintly, grateful for the quiet shift. The cats pause in their wanderings to listen, tails flicking, then slip away into darker alleys. The scholar at his window finally sets down his quill and snuffs his candle, leaving only stars to watch the streets. Hours will pass before dawn returns, but the town rests easy in its shadowed cloak. Its people lie safe behind doors of wood and stone. Its trades and troubles are forgotten for now. Even the river flows softer, or seems to, whispering lullabies to its bridges. And above it all, the night holds steady, patient and kind, cradling the sleeping town until the first pale gleam of morning stirs it awake again. In the heart of winter, when snow drapes the rooftops and the lanes lie silent beneath a cold moon, the hearth becomes the kingdom of the night. In one modest stone house on a narrow lane, a single fire burns low and steady. Its light flickers across beams blackened by years of smoke and warms the faces of those gathered close. Here, sleep is coaxed as gently as bread rising by embers. The household is simple: a mother, a father, 2 children, and the old grandmother whose hands are knotted with time. They have finished the long day of chores, feeding the animals, chopping wood, stirring the stew that warmed their supper. Now, with bowls washed and shutters barred, they sit before the hearth to savor the quiet. The father sits nearest the blaze, carving a new handle for the kitchen ladle. Each slow stroke of his knife releases a curl of pale wood. His boots steam faintly, drying after his last trip to the woodshed. The mother spins wool on a low stool, the spindle humming softly in her fingers. Beside her, the daughter curls up with a patched doll, while the small boy, drowsy from play, leans against the grandmother's knee. The fire itself is built of seasoned oak logs that burn with a steady glow. Above the flames, an iron pot hangs empty now, only a ghost of stew scent lingering. Sprigs of rosemary and thyme crackle when tossed in, perfuming the room with sharp green warmth. The dog sleeps stretched out near the hearthstone, twitching occasionally in dreams. Grandmother is the keeper of night tales. She has told them for decades, first to her own children, now to theirs. Her voice is soft but carries well in the hush. Tonight, she begins with an old favorite, the story of the winter wren who braved the longest night to bring back the sun. The children know it well, but never tire of the way she shapes each word, slow and sure. She tells of the little bird's journey over snowbound fields and through dark forests, of how it carried a spark of light in its tiny beak to wake the dawn. The daughter clutches her doll, the boy's eyelids sag. Even the parents, though they have heard this tale countless times, smile quietly as the words roll out, warm as the fire. Outside, wind scuffs against the shutters and sighs down the chimney. The room answers with the crackle of oak and the grandmother's even tone. Shadows dance on the walls, sometimes tall, sometimes small, as if the story itself were moving through the room. The father finishes the laded handle and sets it aside, taking up a small knife to trim the fire's edge. He adds one last log, careful not to wake too fierce a flame. Night's warmth should be steady, not blazing. The mother sets down her spindle and draws the daughter into her lap, smoothing her hair. The boy slides from grandmother's knee to curl against the dog, whose warm flank makes the perfect pillow. Grandmother's story drifts into a quiet ending, the wren safe in its nest as dawn breaks and light spills back across the land. She falls silent, looking at the children with soft pride. So we wake to each new day, she whispers, because even the smallest heart can keep the dark at bay. The girl murmurs, half asleep. The boy stirs and then settles deeper. For a time no one speaks. The fire hums and pops, the only voice needed. The parents watch the children slip toward dreams and exchange a glance that is part love, part relief. Another day done, another night safely begun. The grandmother folds her hands and leans back, eyes half closed but still keeping a quiet watch. When the children are fully drowsing, the father rises and gently lifts the boy, carrying him to the low bed tucked against the far wall. The mother takes the daughter's hand and leads her to join him, pulling up thick wool blankets, tucking them tight. The dog follows to curl at their feet, sighing once before surrendering to sleep. Back at the hearth, the adults linger a while longer. The father carves a little more at the ladle handle, smoothing its curves. The mother sips from a small cup of warm milk flavored with nutmeg. Grandmother dozes in her chair, but wakes when the wind rattles the shutters, murmuring a prayer before slipping back into slumber. These are the hours when the house feels most alive, though nearly silent. The walls hold the day's work and the night's calm. The hearth keeps its steady glow. The parents talk softly of plans, a trip to market if the snow holds, mending to finish, seed to save for spring. Their words are slow and practical, but underneath is a deep contentment. When at last yawns claim them, the father banks the fire. He rakes coals into a neat mound, covers them with ash, and places a small log atop so embers will last until morning. The light dims to a red glow that breathes in the dark. He sets the carving knife aside, cleans the shavings from the hearth, and checks the latch on the door. The mother stirs the dog just enough to coax it back to its rug, then helps the grandmother rise. Together they guide her to the bedchamber, where quilts and a hot brick wrapped in cloth wait. She smiles at them both, weary but grateful. They kiss her cheek and whisper good night. The house is nearly dark now, lit only by the fire's heart and one beeswax candle on the table. The parents move quietly, snuffing lamps, folding wool wraps. They share a last glance around the room, tools put by, boots drying by the hearth, the day's peace intact. Then they take each other's hands and climb the small stair to the loft. Before sleeping, they pause at the window to look out. Snow falls lightly now, flakes catching the faint glow from the fire below. The town is still, roofs are white, chimneys smoking gently. Somewhere a bell tolls the late hour, and the sound seems softer wrapped in snow. They breathe the cold air that slips through a crack, then close the shutter and return to warmth. They slip into their bed, heavy quilts layered against the night. The candle is snuffed with a quick whisper of smoke. Darkness embraces them, but not emptily. The whole house hums with quiet safety, children sleeping, dog dreaming, grandmother breathing slow, embers glowing on the hearth. The day's labor is behind, tomorrow's waits, but cannot touch them now. Dreams come gentle here. They rise from the steady warmth of the banked fire, from the scent of herbs and wood smoke, from the remembered story of the brave little wren. The parents drift into sleep holding hands. Downstairs the coals pulse softly, a heartbeat for the home. Outside, the snow deepens, muffling every sound. The lane is empty, save for a wandering cat that leaves light prints before vanishing. Above, the sky clears enough for stars to glimmer cold and bright. Inside, the house is an island of warmth, wrapped in night's deep stillness. When dawn finally comes, it will find this family rested and safe, their dreams gently tended by firelight and the old rituals of bedtime. But for now, the night reigns, calm and unbroken. A single coal glows in the hearth like a small guardian star, and sleep enfolds all who dwell within.